The creator of the Sigmund Corp series, Kan Gao, once said that To the Moon is a game about finding fiction and reality, where Finding Paradise is about finding reality in fiction. An idea that the more I played Finding Paradise and thought about my experience, I started to agree with a lot more. I already gave the first game my praise, so how does the sequel hold up? Honestly, I think it's even better. I think it has a way more easygoing storyline with a more predictable twist at the end. But out of every game in the series, I think it is the one entry that I understand and relate to the most. Relatability does not immediately make something good or better. I think To the Moon has a more engaging narrative as it explores a man with very specific circumstances. He actually needs Sigmund Corp services because at the end of his life he was filled with regrets, not unlike this game's protagonist Colin. The difference between Colin and Johnny is that Johnny's life was tragedy after tragedy that he had no control over, where with Colin it was more so the average difficulties that most of us are going to have to deal with, like having a really bad day at work or not being able to spend as much time with family as you would have liked to. These are things that are a lot more easy to identify with than the more extreme circumstances Johnny in the previous game was dealing with. With that being said, however, it's not just the relatability of Colin that I love, it's the execution. It's exploring what this operation would be like for someone who didn't have a bad life. Someone who has living family members who are questioning why he even wants to change his past. Family members that show resentment towards the doctors coming to do Lord only knows what. Does he want to erase us from his memory? Does he want to change everything? There's certainly things in Colin's memories that would suggest so. Certain people who show up in his memories a lot more frequently than his wife and son. But just like the first game, things aren't always as they seem. As Colin's real dilemma isn't that he lived a bad life and needs to change it. He lived a good life and needed a reminder. And that's exactly what this game explores. The idea of making it to the end of your life and only being able to think about your regrets. Essentially getting in the way of your own happiness. Something that I think a lot of us will and have gone through. I think this game, more than any entry of the series, is about how life is a thing that we need to treasure even in bad times. Honestly, I remember watching the Pixar movie Soul, and while I really enjoyed it, I kind of thought that movie should have done something similar to this game, when it came to the ending at least. Aside from just really enjoying the meaning behind the game and its story, I think there's a lot of other improvements from the first entry of the series. As I mentioned in the To the Moon video, I think visually it is a better game. They got better with backgrounds and reworked some of the sprites a bit. I think the comedy works a little better in this game since it's going for a somewhat lighter story than To the Moon did, and also at this point we know Neil and Eva pretty well. It's easier for them to work off of each other. The music is pretty much on par with the first game, which, yeah, what an accomplishment in itself. The music from To the Moon is outstanding, one of the best soundtracks to a video game I've ever played, and the sequel actually manages to follow it up. It goes for a more imaginative sound, as Colin himself is a very imaginative person. It's a lot less sad than To the Moon's music, but not less emotional. The main theme, Time is a Place, is probably my favorite track of all three games, and this game finds so many different ways to use it throughout. It can be energetic, it can be unsettling, it can be romantic, it can be nostalgic, it can be a lot of things. Some of my favorite tracks aren't really even that great to listen to on their own, but fit the scene they're used in so well. For example, the track A Moment to Sink In. This track plays right after the scene where Colin's son is born. When Colin holds his son for the first time, he doesn't feel what he's supposed to feel right away. And he takes a second to walk out and let everything sink in. And my god, you feel it during this part. It's not that he doesn't love his son or isn't excited, it's just an overwhelming moment for the guy as well as another regret in his life, since this big moment didn't go over so smoothly. Both with him arriving late and missing his son's birth, and not having the reaction he thought he was going to have. It's just a moment where everything was too much and he needed a second to come back to reality. Something that Colin has struggled with his entire life. It's moments like these that put Finding Paradise's less eventful story over To the Moon for me. It just executes everything so flawlessly. That isn't to say nothing happens in this game, no, shit gets fucking crazy at the end of it, but I feel like all of that is best for you to experience by playing the game yourself. I neglected to mention the very talented Laura Shigehara in my To the Moon video. She's a singer-songwriter behind some pretty notable games, with her work in Plants vs. Zombies, Don't Forget from Undertale, and several songs from her own game, Rockin'. She has such a lovely voice, and her lyrics range from fun and lighthearted to songs about the struggles of life. The song in To the Moon, Everything's Alright, Right is a phenomenal song. My introduction to the series was actually this song. Someone did a cover it for a tribute to Markiplier many years ago. And I loved the song so much that I just had to know where it came from. With that being said, I actually think she managed to one-up herself with Wish My Life Away, featured in the climax of this game. And I can't believe I'm saying that because Everything's Alright was a nearly impossible song to one-up. But my god, I think she did it. I adore this song and how it ties everything together at the end. I was able to get through Everything's Alright without crying. I was not able to get through Wish My Life Away without tearing up. It's just such a powerful song. Anyways, I've probably gushed over the song enough. From a gameplay perspective, Sonic is probably my favorite series. But from a storytelling perspective, it's hands down the Sigmund Corp series. We've got one more game to cover this month, and we'll get to that near the end. If I didn't sell you on the series after the To the Moon video, maybe this one got you curious. I will never stop loving this series, and I hope I can introduce just a few more people to it. And don't watch a fucking Let's Play. I think those can be fun to watch after playing through the game yourself to see how other people reacted to certain scenes. But one, you're not going to be supporting the official release. Maybe a little bit ironic coming from me considering what I do on my channel, but it's very story driven. I do think watching a Let's Play can replace the experience in this case. 2, the Let's Player's probably going to do some silly voice for the characters. I think it's best to just interpret how the characters sound yourself. And 3, I think exploring these scenes at your own pace really does make the experience. I hope I've been able to convince a few people to check it out because I think it's one of the most worthwhile experiences I've ever had with a game.